Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I did this story once, but it came across slightly off. And it coming across slightly off, I got something slightly wrong. Kind of wrong. Yeah, kind of wrong. It's wrong enough where I want to redo the video, not to mention everything was falling apart. We're in the middle of a thunderstorm and my system went down. So, first, let me start off saying Richard Wolff is going to be here tomorrow at 10:30. I am extraordinarily excited about that. So that's going to take place. I want to talk about the Iran deal, specifically within the context of Europe. So Donald Trump pulls out of the Iran deal. He breaks the deal. Everyone else, all of the other signatories, it's an international deal. France, Germany, UK, China, Russia, it's an international deal. All the other signatories agree that Iran has lived up to its engagements for that particular deal. The United States comes in with a dialogue and breaks the deal. Here's Saudi Arabia and Israel whispering in his ear, essentially one being apartheid state and the other one murdering and starving Yemenis. With our help, of course, because supposedly they're our friends. And yet, these are the people who are whispering in Trump's ear. Europe, not so much. Donald Trump pulls out. The question becomes, what happens to Europe? What happens to Europe? What happens to Europe? So Europe now has to make decisions. It's no longer necessarily in this complete alliance with America. America has literally pulled away from them. And America has said, unwind your businesses with Iran, or we will also sanction you. Europe stood by when America passed sanctions on pretty much anybody. Now it's going to be on you. It's on your backs. You said squat when other people were being hit by this. Now you're potentially going to be hit by this. Meaning the White House has made clear that it will put sanctions on UK or European businesses if those businesses are doing deals with Iran. That is amazing. That is amazing. That is the United States literally distancing itself from its closest ally to break a deal. Credibility out the window. Any level of high ground out the window. Would anybody ever really make a deal with you again? Hells no. Hell no. And now Donald Trump wants some other deal, or at the very least the EU is talking about, or Britain is talking about another deal. They're not going to make another deal. You know, what do I mean by not Britain talking about another deal? In Boris Johnson's speech, he kind of alluded to Donald Trump finding a way forward. It's not up for Donald Trump to find a way forward. Donald Trump believes that the United States is the #1 economy. And if it wants to put sanctions on anybody, it can put sanctions on anybody, you included. This is going to be a come to Jesus moment for Europe. This is a come to Jesus moment for Europe. What do you do? What do you do? I'm fantastically curious and keep listening for what does Europe do? In one case, Europe said it's going to go to the World Trade Organization. Let me show you this. Let's see. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Right here. Okay, I had that up. Oh, here we are. So Europe, the United States is not economic policemen. The EU will go to the World Trade Organization if the United States action hurts business in Iran. The European Union has moved to protect the interests of the companies that do business in Iran following the United States' decision to withdraw from the 2015 nuclear deal. President Donald Trump's announcement that the United States was withdrawing from the landmark pact unleashed a wave of criticism from the international community. Now the EU has threatened to take the United States to the World Trade Organization if it takes any steps that would negatively impact European businesses in the Middle Eastern country. Uh-oh! Shit is breaking loose. And that's exactly what is taking place. Shit is breaking loose. They are literally going to take the United States to the WTO. Here's the catch. The secret is Europe has fears that Donald Trump is out to destroy the World Trade Organization. So, does taking Trump to the World Trade Organization really help if the United States, if they fear that the United States is out to kill that organization? It's like if you have a situation or a system that says trade is okay in this particular capacity and we're going to monitor trade and we're going to make sure these deals are fair, etc., etc., etc. What if you don't buy it? What if you don't buy into that system? Yeah, but I understand that that's what you're saying, but we don't necessarily go by that anymore. That's what they're afraid of. They're afraid that the United States is going to rip itself away from these kind of international agreements, the international order, and the way that trade has been going about, you know, in the last century or whatever. Let's listen to Boris Johnson. I'm making the point that I don't think Europe knows what to do. I don't think England, the UK, knows what to do. They're finally in this situation for the first time. Usually all these other, Middle Eastern countries or whatever are in this situation where the United States is passing sanctions. Now, the sanctions are on them. And how does Europe respond to these sanctions? I understand that Europe itself is talking about going to the WTO. Each individual country may try to find something to try to save their companies. What does Europe do? That's the question. What does Europe do? And is the United States going to put sanctions on Europe? I suspect the answer is yes. If Europe doesn't bow down or bend the knee, which means that Europe needs to find another way around. Europe has said they're going to stand by Iran in this because Iran hasn't broken the agreement, so they're not going to break the agreement either. If you're going to stand by the agreement, the United States says it's going to put sanctions on those companies. You said you're standing by the agreement. What are you going to do? How are you going to protect those companies? It's fucking fascinating. International politics. Let's take a look at some Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson is giving an explanation of what the UK is going to do. Let's listen to what he's saying, or at the very least what he's not saying.
Reimpose American sanctions on Iran. We did our utmost to prevent this outcome. From the moment that President Trump's administration took office, we made the case for keeping the JCPOA at every level. Last Sunday, I traveled to Washington and repeated this country's support for the nuclear agreement in meetings with Secretary Pompeo, Vice President Pence, National Security Advisor Bolton, and others. And my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, spoke to President Trump last Saturday. The US decision makes no difference to the British assessment that the constraints imposed on Iran's nuclear ambitions by the JCPOA remain vital for our national security and the stability of the Middle East. Under the agreement, Iran has relinquished 95% of its low-enriched uranium, placed 2/3 of its centrifuges in storage, removed the core of its heavy water reactor, and thus closing off the plutonium route to a bomb, and allowed the International Atomic Energy Agency to mount the most intrusive and rigorous inspection regime ever devised, an obligation on Iran that lasts until 2040. The House should not underestimate the impact of these measures. The interval needed for Iran to make enough weapons-grade uranium for one nuclear bomb is known as the breakout time. Under the deal, Iran's breakout time has trebled or even quadrupled from a few months to at least a year, and the plutonium pathway to a weapon has been blocked completely. For as long as Iran abides by the agreement, and the IAEA has publicly reported its compliance, Iran's compliance, 9 times so far, then Britain will remain a party to the JCPOA. I remind the House that the JCPOA is an international agreement painstakingly negotiated over 13 years under both Republican and Democratic institutions and enshrined in UN Resolution 2231. Britain has no intention of walking away. Instead, we will cooperate with the other parties to...
I'm not a fan of Boris Johnson, but I like the way he said that. Britain has no intention of walking away. I love that. I love that. I love that. Because Iran didn't break the deal. The United States broke the deal. The oddity of this, the United States looks around at his friends and it sees one bloodthirsty theocratic regime that's out there literally murdering Yemenis and using weaponized illness to take them down. And you have the other one who's holding an open-air ghetto, who's been murdering Palestinians, shooting in a crowd with snipers. Those are your friends. And you've just eschewed Europe. Let's keep going. But he said we're not walking away. And mind you, that has consequences. That has magnificent consequences. I know people think politics are boring, and I know he's standing there, he's just talking. There are consequences to the things that he's saying. Is the United States going to put sanctions on its partner with a special relationship? Oh, now we're getting to politics. Now this is politics.
Ensure that while Iran continues to restrict its nuclear program, then its people will benefit from sanctions relief in accordance with the central bargain of the deal. I cannot yet go into detail on the steps we propose to take, but I hope to make them available as soon as possible, and I spoke yesterday to my French and German counterparts.
They don't know. They don't know. They have no idea what to do. And maybe I'm wrong. Or maybe the plans that they have, they're doing it behind the scenes. Like I said, the European Union is going towards the World Trade Organization route if anything hurts the businesses of the people who are under the European Union. He said he talked to his French and German counterpart. They did not want this to go through. They understood that they were going to be put into a ridiculous situation where Iran is still abiding by the terms of the deal. And yet, how do you protect your businesses and Iranian businesses? The whole premise of the deal is that these sanctions won't take place. How are you going to protect those businesses? Europe. How? Either Boris Johnson doesn't know, Boris Johnson can't tell. We don't necessarily know which fully that it is. I lean on the side that he's not quite certain on how he's going to protect those businesses. But I could be wrong. Let's keep going. At some point, they will come out with a plan that they're going to use. But at this moment, they're not coming out with that plan. And it's possible because they don't have one yet. Let's keep going.
In his statement on January 12th, President Trump highlighted important limitations of the JCPOA, including the fact that some constraints on Iran's nuclear capacity expire in 2025. Britain worked alongside France and Germany to find a way forward that would have addressed the president's concerns.
Let's be honest. Donald Trump has never read the JCPOA. Donald Trump doesn't even know the details of the Iran deal. This is nonsense engaging him on it in this particular way. The man isn't competent. He was a reality show host. He doesn't know the tenets of the agreement. He went about it for a political trick or something. This was one of the things he used for his political thing of going into office. This is one of the things he believed that he can pull, or one of the threads that he can pull to throw back as a bone to the people from a local politics standpoint. Do I know that for certain? No. Do I suspect it strongly? Yes, I do. I suspect it strongly. I would have to believe that Donald Trump knows the tenets of the agreement and that he's looked through the agreement and knows the details. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Yes, some of that has to do with my perception of Donald Trump. And yes, I have a lowly perception of Donald Trump. But do I think or believe that Donald Trump knows the tenets of the agreement? No, I don't. I do not. But let's keep going. He's engaging him on this front because politics.
And allowed the US to stay in the JCPOA, but without reopening the terms of the agreement. I still believe that would have been the better course. And now that our efforts on this side of the Atlantic have not succeeded, it falls to the US administration to spell out their view of the way ahead. In the meantime, I urge the US to avoid taking any action that would hinder other parties from continuing to make the agreement work in the interests of our collective national security.
Right there. That's what it boils down to. That's what all of this boils down to. Don't hurt our businesses. Don't hurt our businesses. We're still party to this agreement. They didn't do anything to break the agreement. You broke the agreement. Don't hurt us because you yourself broke the international agreement. Don't hurt our businesses. The White House has said they're going to put on sanctions, meaning they will hit European business, they will hit British businesses if those businesses do business with Iran. Britain is saying we're not going anywhere. We're standing by Iran. This is an impasse. These are two political dispositions that can't necessarily live with one another. What's going to happen? Oh, politics is fucking fascinating, man. I understand there's some people out there who think, it's not a big deal that this deal ended. Those people are insane. They have no idea what they're talking about. This was a big deal on multiple fronts. And breaking this deal creates some kind of issues, especially with regards to the way the EU is going to interact with the United States now that the United States is going to literally attack businesses in the EU. So stay tuned. We'll see what happens. I will say this, though. Europe is concerned that Trump is out to change what's considered, let's say, the world order. Whether that's good or bad, I would imagine that's up to the person who's talking at that point. Breaking the deal goes beyond just a financial thing. Breaking the deal goes to this thing for this issue of war. They are looking at this from two vantage points. You're going to hurt our businesses if you pass sanctions on us. By the same token, this deal is doing what it's supposed to do, and if you strip away this deal, you leave a potential for that country to get weapons, in which case, or try to get weapons, or at the very least, leave open a pretext that the U.S. may use for war, which adversely affects the security of us and these other nations. We don't want you to murder another million people. So yeah, we're online to stop or to keep this deal up. This is fascinating. Because if Europe is right, the EU is going to go to the WTO. By the exact same token, the EU suspects that Donald Trump is trying to destroy that same WTO. What happens? This is politics on a grand scale. This is fucking amazing. You wanted to throw a brick through the window of the establishment? Here's your guy. Let's just hope this guy doesn't start a fucking nuclear war while he's doing it. So, I will leave it at that. What's taking place in regards to the escalation in Israel, Iran, and that country in Syria is profound and it's devastating. It's a powder keg. France, the UK, Germany, the United States, Qatar, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Russia. All of them are in Syria. It's a powder keg. And Turkey. Yeah, Turkey was talking about false flags in Syria. They shut down the internet. So I will leave it at that. I didn't like my other video, so I redid that video. Hopefully this one turned out a little bit better. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the Patreon. Thanks, guys. That's not it.